The first strategy is setting objectives and providing feedback. Objectives are explicit statements of what students are going to learn or be able to do by the end of a lesson or unit. Objectives, which could also be thought of as lesson-level goals, help to ensure that learning activities are relevant and purposeful. Students need to see a clear connection between what they are being asked to do during a lesson and what they are supposed to learn during a lesson. Otherwise, they might fairly ask, "What's the point?" Or, "Why are you asking me to do this?" Here are a few guidelines and best practices for setting objectives. First, when you set learning objectives for a lesson, you should make sure that the objective is specific but not restrictive. For example, imagine that we have 3 sample objectives. Student will be able to write persuasively for a specific audience. Student will be able to describe the appeal to emotion persuasive strategy in 3 sentences or less. And student will be able to identify 3 persuasive strategies, explain their purposes, and use them in a sample piece of writing. The first objective is very broad. A whole bunch of knowledge and skills are required to write persuasively, and they can't all be taught in a single lesson. The second objective is so specific that it might actually be limiting. The scope of a lesson should extend beyond just giving a short description of a single strategy. The last objective is appropriately specific. It describes specifically what students will be able to do by the end of the lesson, but it's broad enough to allow for students to construct knowledge and engage in higher order thinking. Second, an objective should be stated in terms of what students are going to learn, not what activities they are going to complete. For example, student will be able to analyze the political and economic effects of the Stamp and Tea Acts on the British colonies would be an appropriate objective. But student will be able to read pages 77 to 92 and answer the questions about the Stamp and Tea Acts would not be an appropriate objective. Remember that the ultimate goal of a lesson should always be student learning, not activity completion. Third, communicate learning objectives explicitly to your students. Your students should always know what they are learning, why they are learning it, and how a particular task will help them to learn it.